Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope that everybody has had a great week, and I hope that you're starting off your weekend healthy, confident, and happy. Welcome Davlat Bek, Marjona, Avhi, Jas, Aman, Pasang. Nice to see many of you joining in on this class. In this class, everyone, we are focusing on grammar for the IELTS and understanding grammar for those high band scores. So what you're actually doing with grammar to get into those high band categories. Hi, Rashika. Welcome, everyone. For lots more help with the academic IELTS, please visit aehelp.com, and you can actually see the website here. I'll show it to you. This is for academic IELTS. This blue background, you click this big red button to join our premium IELTS package. There's lots there. You'll have this My Student account. And I will actually show you where you can get a lot of grammar lessons and writing lessons in here as well in a little bit. So this is our academic IELTS. And then for general IELTS, it's the green background, and you can click this big red button here to join the premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. We are a British Council IELTS Test Registration Center and certified agents in several parts of the world. So you're in great hands with us for your studies. We help thousands and thousands of students every day to succeed in their IELTS goals. Students, you can also get our apps. The apps will link to these websites. Search for Academic IELTS Help on Google Play or Apple App Store, or for General IELTS, search for General IELTS Help. If you have any questions, just send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. I will get back to you quickly. And you can also check us out on Instagram, IELTS_AEhelp or GIELTS Help. So lots there for you. Okay, so we've got this grammar lesson right now, and we're going to get right into it. So we're going to talk a little bit about grammar that's needed for Band 9 IELTS. Okay, so first of all, IELTS and grammar. So IELTS and grammar. IELTS looks at three kind of points, okay? So three different kind of ideas to think about here when it comes to grammar. Okay. Number one, IELTS looks at your grammar complexity, so your kind of range of grammar, and they actually call that your grammar range. And they look at this in both your writing and in your speaking. Okay, grammar range. So grammar range means the diversity of grammar that you use in your writing and speaking. Of course, based on that, you will understand the listening and the reading sections as well. So for Band 8 and Band 9, you need to show that you can use different kinds of grammar. Like, for example, you can use present perfect. Okay. What else? What do you think, students? So for Band 8, Band 9, Senor, we're going to talk about speaking today. We're going to talk about writing today in many ways, because that's how we use grammar. Of course, we show our grammar through speaking, through writing. So I'm going to show you that as well. But most of the time, I'm going to show you. No, my eyes don't get tired looking up. Thanks for asking. I use my head as well, not just my eyes. Present perfect. What else? What other kinds of grammar? So what do you think? What types of grammar? So past perfect, Bekir says, okay, past perfect, yep. Passive tense, Farid, absolutely. Okay. Active, passive. Yeah, what else? Progressive. Sure. We need to know that as well. We need to know modal verbs. Yeah. When you're talking about modal verbs, think about adjective clauses. Okay, you need to use lots of those. All right. So those are definitely some of the grammar forms that you need to be able to produce during your speaking and writing. Absolutely. Okay. Now, in order to produce good grammar, so, okay, again, let's go back to this. So I said IELTS looks at 3 points when it comes to grammar, okay? So firstly, they look at your grammar range, all right? So how dynamically, how quickly you can use these different kinds of grammar. Yeah, and you need to be able to produce complex and compound sentences. Okay, we'll talk about those in a minute, all right? So bear with me. You're going to really enjoy this lesson, I promise. Even though people think grammar, enjoy grammar, what? But no, you can enjoy grammar. There's a trick to that, okay? And I'm going to show you how, all right? So they look at grammar range, okay? And then they also look at grammar accuracy, okay? So it's great that you're using present perfect, but are you using it correctly, right? So the correctness, if you will, of your grammar use. Okay. And then the third point that they're kind of paying attention to is natural grammar. Okay, so are you using grammar similarly to a native speaker? So sometimes students will just kind of use like present perfect or passive voice just to use it, okay? And it doesn't really make sense or it doesn't sound natural. So when you think about grammar in the IELTS, think about grammar range, okay? Think about grammar accuracy, and think about using grammar in a natural way. And you have to do all of these, and you have to practice all of these, okay? So we're going to look at the correct steps for learning grammar, okay? Now, the correct steps for learning grammar is to think about grammar critically, okay? So I'm always emphasizing the importance of critical thinking. And yes, Aman Valley, conditional sentences and punctuation is also important in your grammar learning and in your grammar journey. So think about grammar. So these are my two big tips for you, okay, when you're learning grammar for the IELTS. Think about grammar critically. That's number one, okay? And number two is start from the basics, okay? All right, let me show you this, okay? So we're gonna have fun with grammar today. All right, so let's do this. Fun with grammar. All right, what is the most basic English sentence? Can anybody tell me that? Okay, so when we talk about grammar, what is the most, yeah, Sonia, very good. So Sonia's asking, what does it mean thinking critically about grammar? And I'm going to explain that, Sonia. Very good question, okay? So I'll explain that in 2 seconds, okay? So what is the most, yeah, so Sammy says simple present. Maybe that's the first grammar that you kind of learn, okay? First you learn vocabulary like hello, good morning, and then you learn simple present, right? What is simple present? Atharwa, I like an apple is actually not accurate, okay? Gusty says it's subject plus verb plus object. That's right. So it's subject plus verb plus object. Thank you for teaching me, everyone. That's great. Okay, so subject plus verb plus object. This is what grammar is. Okay, this is what simple present is. All right, so thinking critically about grammar, okay, the first idea here, and many of you know this, is think about the what? Okay, all right. So let's say I have an example sentence here for you. I study IELTS. Very good. All right, so in this sentence, and yes, you should know English grammar, even if you're a native speaker. And it's shame on many English speakers, native English speakers, they don't know their grammar like this, but they should. They would be better for it, okay? So here, I equals the subject. Study equals the verb in the simple form. And then IELTS equals the object. Right? Everybody's agreeing with me, hopefully. Okay. So simple present, subject, verb, object. Okay. Now here's the next question. And this is thinking critically. Okay, maybe some of you know this because some of you are my students for a long time. Students, please only use English in the chat. Okay, Jas, use English, okay? All right. All right. So what's the next question here? Okay. So if we're thinking critically about English grammar, okay, then what's the next question? So I understand the what now. Okay. So what is simple present? Simple present is subject, verb, object. This is what simple present is. Okay. What's the next question that I should know? Okay. Mien says tenses or meaning, usage. All right, Mien, you're guessing, and you finally guessed it right. So good job, Mien. It is usage, right? So why do we use it? Okay, so why do we use simple present in English? It's a very good question. Okay. So why we need this? Exactly, Jaineel. So why do we need this? So that's that's the second one of critical thinking. So why do we use simple present? And this is where a lot of teachers and a lot of students fail because they don't actually understand why we use certain types of grammar. And students, you might be thinking, okay, this is easy, Adrian, were you talking about simple present, but I'm going to get real fancy real soon with present perfect, passive, progressive, all combining together. So we need to start from the basics. Remember what I said. That's very important. Start with the basics. Otherwise, you will not understand it when it gets really complex. Okay. So Aman says to show habit. Yeah, Aman, that's part of it. Absolutely. Okay. Bakir says to talk about general actions. Yeah. So the answer here, it's kind of between that, to indicate a general truth that is not dependent on time. This is the most accurate answer. And when it comes to answering the why question, students, accurate answers are key. So to indicate a general truth that is not dependent on time. Okay, so let me show you the example here. Okay, so my example was I study IELTS. Okay, this means that I did it in the past. I'm doing it now, probably in the future as well. Okay, it's just a general activity that I do. Okay, so yeah, I study IELTS. Okay, all right. So of course that also completes the how. So what, why, and how are the three key parts of critically thinking about Grammar. Okay, now let's get more complex here. And this, I love teaching grammar to students because when they learn it through my method, they really start to enjoy it and they really start to master not only English, but communication as well. So check it out. We're gonna pick up some speed here. So how? Well, here's a how. Okay, so I teach IELTS. So the how is just simply an example. When you think about the how, that's when you're thinking about examples. Now, example here is very simple because it's simple present. Okay. So let's do another type of grammar. Let's do the simple present progressive. Okay. So what? Simple present progressive. Okay. So students, this one here, the what is subject plus verb be. Okay, it's also often called the auxiliary verb be. Okay, and then plus, and you can do this with me if you're faster. Show me. Okay, so plus verb with ing. Plus the object. Okay, so now here we're getting into present simple progressive or simple present progressive. You'll hear these a little bit differently, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so this is what it is. Okay, now change this sentence for me into a simple present progressive. So I study IELTS. Okay, that's simple present. Change it into a present progressive or present continuous. Sometimes you'll hear people say present continuous. It's the same. Okay, so change that into present progressive. Mien says, I am studying IELTS. Yeah, sure. Okay, and when you're practicing, students, don't use contractions, okay? So Gusty, Mien, Sammy, just write it all out, right? So I am studying IELTS. Okay. All right, so now comes the interesting part, okay? Why? So why do we use progressive? Or continuous. Continuous is the same. So why do we use continuous? Why do we use this form in English or in our speaking, like I am studying IELTS? Okay, so Ali says to show that it is in progress right now. Sure. Now, some of you are saying in the moment, but maybe not, maybe. Okay, let me show you something interesting. So let's say I'm talking to my friend, okay? And my friend asks, okay? What are you doing these days? And I answer, okay, so let's do this as me. Okay, so here we go. My friend is asking, what are you doing these days? Okay, I answer first like this. Oh, these days I study IELTS. I'll even make it a little bit more natural for you. Oh, these days I study IELTS. Or I can say it like this way. Oh, these days I'm studying IELTS. Which one's correct? Okay. So which one of these two is correct? The answer, it's a tricky one. It's both. Okay, yeah, very good, Ali. So Ali Kazarvi says both are correct. Okay, so both of these are correct. So what's the difference then? Okay, so what's the difference? What's the difference? And this is where we're going to get into some magic of communication and understanding IELTS, okay? Technically, both of these are correct. So in conversation, neither of these would sound strange or incorrect, okay? So both of these, okay? All right. So what's the difference? There we go. All right. Yeah, very good, Rajveer. I can tell that you're probably using our course because you've given the right answer. And Rajveer says one is giving a still image and the other one is telling a progression, like kind of like a video. Exactly. Okay. So I study IELTS. Gives a still image in the mind of the listener or reader if you're writing, okay? I am studying IELTS gives a moving image in the mind of the listener. Okay? So that's a big difference. Think about communication in terms of pictures versus videos. Okay, this is one big tip for today. Okay, the reason why is because the communication or the understanding of humans is primarily visually based. That's one of the big reasons a lot of you are here, because you like watching videos. So it's more exciting to learn from a teacher like me presenting you with a moving video than just opening up a book and looking at a picture on a page, okay? So in grammar, we have this ability to control our communication with images like I study IELTS to I'm studying IELTS. Okay, so even though this isn't always conscious in our minds are very quick and very proficient at categorizing pictures versus video, okay? And we have this ability in the grammar, all right? So you want to control that, okay? And you need to choose grammar to control that, okay? So if I want my friend to think about me like I'm a video, that I'm always studying IELTS, I'm putting a lot of effort into it, then I will say, these days I'm studying IELTS. It's a video. Okay, if I want my friend to just kind of get a general idea of one of the activities that I do, then I will use the present perfect. Oh, these days I study IELTS. It's not something I do all the time every day, but it's one of the activities that I do. Does that make sense for everybody? So does it make sense that when you use the progressive form, then you are continuously doing this? Now that also will explain the use of that auxiliary verb be, okay? All right, does everybody understand this? So when we use the be verb here, let me show you this one. Let me just indicate that with red. A lot of times, people get really confused by this because in English it's kind of unique, right? They're like, why are you always saying am and are and is? Like, what's the reason for that, okay? So the be verb emphasizes the form of the grammar and the existence of the subject in that form. Okay, so in this case, we're talking about the video, the continuous action of the subject, which is me doing this action. And the am is emphasizing that this isn't something that I'm just like sometimes doing here and there, like I study IELTS, but it's something that I'm really working on. I'm studying IELTS. I'm continuously doing it. It's like a movie, not like a picture on Instagram, right? So that's what you have to think about, okay? Now, let's get a bit more fancy, okay? So we're going to get into some more complex forms of grammar. Okay, let's up the ante here. So let's go to present perfect. All right, so, and this is kind of unique to English, right? So let's get fancy, and we're going to get real fancy by the end of it here. So let's do present perfect. I know everybody loves present perfect. So the first question with present perfect is, what is present perfect? Okay. Actually, you know what? Before we do present perfect, because some of you are like, oh, what is present perfect? Mian says it's subject plus auxiliary verb has or have plus the past participle of the verb plus the object. Yeah, sure. But you know what? Actually, I'm going to jump back one. We'll do present perfect in a minute. Let's get a little less fancy before that. Let's go passive versus active. Okay. So let's go passive form of grammar. Okay, and there's a reason why I want to show you passive before we do present perfect. I'm going to explain that very, very clearly here. Okay. So what is the grammar form of passive? Okay, so give me the grammar form of passive, and I can tell a lot of you are practicing this. Okay, so what's the what is it? Okay, so what is it? How do you make the passive form? Okay, how do you do that? All right, let's see if anybody knows. Okay. So, Gaming says, I don't know. Sonia says, passive form is more fancy. Muxlisa says its object is are, verb, and by. Yeah, okay. So it's object plus be. Let's do this in another line. Okay, so object plus auxiliary verb be. Okay, plus verb in the past participle. Okay. Plus second object. Okay. Plus, so this is where we're getting a bit more fancy. Plus by subject. Okay. The object sometimes here we also call the second subject. Okay, and I'll explain that in a moment so you don't get confused. There are some confusing ways that grammar is explained because there are multiple ways to say that, okay? All right, so here we have object or subject, and then we have the auxiliary verb be, the past participle verb, the second object, and then by subject, okay? I will give you an example here. So I am driven to school. Okay, so this is the example. I am driven to school each morning, maybe each day. Okay, so I am driven to school. We have the second object or the object or the second subject here. We have the be verb, and then we have the past participle driven, and we have the object or the second object, school. So I am driven to school. Now I can finish this sentence by saying by my mother. Okay, but it's not necessary. So by my mother is not necessary for this sentence. I can simply just say I am driven to school. By my mother is also called something else. Okay, so it's also called something else in grammar. Does anybody know what that's called? So my mother in this case, okay, that subject. Okay. So it's often not called the subject. Oftentimes they'll say that you are the subject or the second subject is the subject. It's the doer of the action, Rehime, yep. Or it's often known as, that's right, Rejveer, it's the agent of the action. Okay. Sometimes they say the doer, but it's more accurate to say the agent of the action. Okay, so my mother is the agent of the action because she's the one driving, right? Not me. I'm just sitting in the car. Okay, so I am driven to school by my mother. It's the agent of the action. Okay, all right. So why do we use this? Okay, so this is the why question. Okay, so here we have now the why question. Why do we do this? So why do we use passive form, or when do we use it, you can say. Okay, so when do we use this kind of language, like I am driven to school by my mother? Okay, because I could write this sentence, okay, I could write an active sentence, my mother drives me to school, okay? This is the same as I am driven to school by my mother, okay? They're both the same. They basically have the same meaning, but there's a very important difference. Okay, and it's this why question where the magic happens. Okay, all right. So, okay, Rajveer says this is to emphasize. Morna says you want to point out the main object. Yeah, so Morna and Rajveer have the same idea. So number one and number two. Okay, so in number one, let's do it like this. So in number one, my mother is emphasized. The agent, right? She's the agent. Okay, versus in number two, I am emphasized. Okay, okay, the object or the second subject, right, is emphasized. So depending on who I'm really talking about and who I'm really emphasizing decides whether I'm using the active voice in this case or if I'm using the passive voice. Okay, so here's the difference in the question. Who drives you to school? Answer, my mother drives me to school. Okay. Versus number 2, how do you get to school each day? I'm driven by my mom. Okay. Does everybody see the difference here? Okay. So whether you're using the passive or the active depends on who you're emphasizing. You're emphasizing your mother doing the action, or you're emphasizing yourself and what's happening to you. If you look at question 1, who drives you to school? The emphasis here is on who. Who is it? It's my mother. Okay, that makes sense, right? And here it's how do you. So there's not a who, it's how do you get to school. Okay, I am, and the am is helping to emphasize, driven by my mom. So this is the example, and you have to know the reason that you're using a kind of grammar in your writing or in your speaking in the IELTS to make it better communication. Does that make sense, everybody? So does it make sense? Now, there is another reason, okay? So this is kind of, I guess you could say, reason A. Okay, here we have reason A. Okay, and there is another reason. Okay, there's a reason B as well. So there is a reason B, okay, and it looks like many of you are picking this up, so you're like, yeah, I got it, I know what's going on now. All right, and there's another reason that we use the passive. Can anybody tell me what another reason might be that we use the passive? So first reason was to emphasize either the doer or the agent of the action or the second subject of the action, in this case, me. There is another reason that we use the passive voice or the passive grammar form. Why? Yeah, exactly. Simge says, when we don't know the agent, right? Sometimes we don't know who's doing the action. We just know the action is being done, right? So the second reason is we use passive, and this is the easy one because you don't really have to think about it. You either know the agent or you don't know the agent. We use passive voice when we do not know the agent of the action. Okay, so for example, my IELTS exam is being conducted this weekend. By who? I don't know. Some person, right? Some administrator. So by who? I don't know. By some person that I don't know. I'm going to meet them on the weekend, right? My IELTS exam is being conducted on the weekend. Okay, is being conducted this weekend. Now this sentence is a little bit trickier. Okay? All right? Why? What is this sentence? What does this sentence have that my previous passive doesn't have? So this sentence, I'm going to keep getting more and more complex with the grammar here, students. So you're going to see that it gets really fancy here in a moment. So what's going on here? So this sentence is a little bit different than my previous. Yeah, very good. Ali and Gaming says that this is because I've added the progressive. So here I've combined the above sentence combines passive with progressive form. Okay, so here you notice that is being. Okay, so we need two be verbs, the second one showing that it's a continuous form. So if I go back to what is the grammar here, right? So what is passive, right? So passive progressive. Present passive progressive. You kind of have the same thing here. So you have subject plus auxiliary verb be, and then here you have another plus auxiliary verb be with ing plus, right? That's because the second auxiliary verb, this is showing the continuous here. So now I have a passive sentence that's emphasizing the subject or the second subject, and it's emphasizing the video or the continuous nature. So if we have this sentence again, let me show you. My IELTS exam is being conducted this weekend. My IELTS exam is being emphasized. Okay, this is the emphasis. And this is a video. In the audience mind. Okay, so it's being done continuously. So we visualize lots of students doing the IELTS exam on the weekend, but we don't see the people who are actually controlling the exam. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Anmol, that would not be a correct sentence. Okay. Yeah, so Georgian changed the previous sentence and said, okay, well, we can do that in the previous one. We can change it. So remember this previous sentence here, my mother drives me to school. So we can change that one as well, and we can change it in this way. The I am being driven to school by my mother. So now we see my mother continuously driving, honking her horn. She's like, meep, 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 and she's pushing the gas, turning at the red light. Okay, so she is continuously driving. She's putting in a lot of effort. She is in this video, and I'm just sitting there reading my notes or playing with the stereo, right? So I am being driven to school by my mother. So we see this continuous action of us. So gaming says it's kind of like Fast and Furious, right? Exactly. So let's go back to the top of this lesson where I said that we have these topics, okay? So what's the grammar that's needed for Band 9? You need to understand grammar range. So you need to understand present perfect. You need to understand the passive tense. You need to understand the progressive tense, what we're working on right now. Of course, students, I can't teach you all the grammar in this one class, but I will teach you how to get a good idea of this, okay? And then you have to have the practice, right? So let's see, where did I think I erased that one, but you have to have practice, okay? So you have to practice grammar, and I'm going to show you how to do this, okay? So to get a Band 8 or 9 on IELTS, you have to practice your grammar, and I would almost say daily. Okay, so here's how. Okay, start with a simple sentence. Okay, so our simple sentence can be something like my mother drives to school. Okay, so start really, really simple. Okay, and then change it. Okay, change it to progressive. All right, my mother is driving to school. Okay. And then change it to passive. I am driven to school by my mother. Okay, you might need to add some pieces here and there. And then change it to present perfect passive. Okay, can anybody do that? Can somebody change this sentence, I am driven to school by my mother? Can you change it to present perfect passive? Okay. Can anybody do that for me? Okay. And now I'll show you. So we're going to get really fancy here. Okay. Yeah, Simge says, I have been driven to school by my mother. Yeah. Very good. Very nice, Mian. Okay, very nice, son. Yeah, very nice, Sammy. I have been driven to school by my mother. Let's get even more fancy. Let's go change to present perfect progressive passive. Okay, can anybody help me with this one? So changing it to present perfect progressive passive. Okay, so and we're gonna get really fancy here. Okay, this is one where even native speakers are like, what? We have that grammar? Because we don't use this level of grammar too much, but it is a correct form of grammar that we're going to produce here. Let's see who can come up with it. I don't see any correct ones there. Okay, Elisian, very nice. Elisian says, I have been being driven to school by my mom. So you still need the past participle, okay? So I have been being driven to school by my mother. Now, if you heard a native speaker say this, they'd say, I've been being driven, but we don't use this often, so you don't hear this often. Now, at high levels of writing or in high levels of literature, you will see this, okay, but you don't see it much, all right? There's a reason for that, okay? It's because we don't usually express concepts or ideas that are this complex, okay? Let me explain to you what this actually means. So this is telling your reader or your listener that you are continuously, over time, as a moving image, are driven to school, and this will likely continue into the future. And this is a reoccurring action. Okay? So this gets really fancy, everyone, and I don't expect you to know or use this level of grammar for IELTS, and the IELTS examiners don't either. So kind of IELTS stops here at D. Okay? So this is your IELTS level here. But it's fun to know this level for sure in English. And once you know level D, you can naturally move to level D as well. So IELTS needs this for band 9. E is a bit too much for IELTS, but if you get into really high levels of literature in English, then, you can get to this level here, all right? So when we use the present perfect, we use it for various reasons: to show repetition over time, to show experience, achievement, and so on. In this case, it's the repetition, because my mother repeatedly drives me to school, right? Now, it's also in the continuous form, being driven. So it indicates that my mother's always repeatedly doing this video. It's like replaying this video of my mom driving me to school over and over and over again. That started at some time in the past. It happens today, and it will continue to happen in the future. And I'm in the focus. So it's not my mom here that we're focusing on. It's me, the person that's being driven to school. Does everybody clearly understand that? So there's several points being emphasized by this very complex sentence. I have been being driven to school by my mother. Firstly, I'm being emphasized as this is happening to me. It's starting at some point in the past. It's a repetitive action, and each of these actions is like a short video of my mom getting me to school. It's like a video in a loop. That's right, Rajveer. Does everybody get that? Okay. Yeah, so it's quite complex, okay? Now, what I can do is I can do combination sentences, and this is where we get into the world of compound sentences, okay? So I have been being driven to school by my mother ever since I broke my leg playing football, which in my case was actually floor hockey. So let's make it real for me. But my mother didn't drive me to school because I was already graduated at that time, but that's okay. So this is your combination sentence. I have been being driven to school by my mother ever since I broke my leg playing floor hockey. So this would be considered your highest level of sentence composition. Okay, you've got present perfect, passive, progressive, and here the emphasis is on me because it's me that broke my leg. So I'm combining this with a subordinating conjunction of time, ever since. Okay, so or you could also consider it a cause and effect in this case as well. Okay. All right, so students, that's kind of grammar, and that's how you build up grammar. So again, my two key points here, right? What are they? Who remembers my two main points about grammar starting at the beginning of this class? So I said you have to do this with grammar and you have to do this with grammar. So what are they? So what do you need to do with grammar when you're studying grammar? What was my first point? Okay, what was it? Okay, Lei Kwang says start from the basics was 1, and Nighaim Un says think critically was number 2. Yeah, absolutely. So those were my two big points, right? So these were my two big points here. Let me re-highlight these. We'll make that one red this time. So think critically about grammar. Think about the what, why, how, and start from the basic and build it up. Okay, that's what you need to do with the grammar. Let me show you here. Let me see if I've got a minute for this and I can hop over here to our website. Okay. And show you where all of you can practice this for free. So this is absolutely free. So this is our website here. This is at ahelp.com. This is glshelp.com, and you can try our website for free by clicking this green try demo button. And then when you're in the website, you're going to have this full online academic IELTS course. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see that. Let's make sure it's still on the page for you. Okay, so see this full online academic IELTS course. You will find this in your general IELTS as well. Okay, and then if you go to the very, very, very end, you have this bonus writing and grammar. So click on that bonus writing and grammar, and up will pop the lesson for the bonus writing and grammar. Wait for it to load. It's a pretty big course. Make sure you're using Wi-Fi, okay? And then you're going to have this writing course here. And let's get to the grammar here. Okay, and then you're going to see that here are what we talked about in this class. So subject, verb, object. John walks to school. Okay. Time of the action, it's still or moving, and it's active or passive. And then you're going to get into the verb forms, and it's going to get you into changing time. Okay. And then these combinations of grammar. Here we go. Let me show you these. So grammar combos. So here you have present and moving, continuous perfect. I have been studying astronomy. Past, passive, and perfect. I had been promoted at my work. Okay, so these grammar combos. So try these out on the website. And the website will really walk you through this lesson with lots and lots of examples and explanations for what, why, and how of grammar. And it's absolutely free. That's the good news. So this writing course, it's included in the free version of our course as well. Okay. So again, to use the free version of our course, just click that green button on aehelp.com or gltshelp.com. It's this try demo button here. Okay. And just click that and you're good to go. Click on the course, click on the writing course, and then check out the grammar lessons. All right, so that's it for today's grammar lesson, giving you a quick snapshot of grammar and understanding for a Band 9 for the IELTS. I hope that everybody enjoyed this grammar lesson for IELTS, and I hope that you all continue to study grammar and enjoy grammar to improve your communication. So again, the website's aehelp.com for academic IELTS, and for general IELTS, it's gieltshelp.com. That's it for now. Tomorrow, I will be back with speaking part 2 and speaking part 3, when we will actually be using our advanced grammar. So practice until then, and hopefully I will see all of you back in class. Thank you, Carolina, for moderating this chat. Thank you everyone for joining. Aslideen, I'm glad that you enjoyed the class. That's fantastic. Much love to all of you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. I'm Adrian, and I'm signing out from Victoria for now. Bye everyone.